So thank you everyone for your time. I'm so sorry I was late searching for a link to come here, but it's lovely to see you all. So yeah, I'm Dan. I run a charity called CAST, which, as Martha said, used to be called the Centre for the Acceleration of Social Technology, but that's such a ridiculous name. We now just called CAST. But the organisation was set up specifically to help third sector, charitable and social organisations can respond to how people use digital in their everyday lives, and then to think about how we can then use digital within our own work, so digital data and design, to achieve our charitable objectives. So I'll talk, rather than talk about CAST though, I'm going to talk about our contribution to something called Catalyst, which is a network and a movement of organisations and individuals who are interested in how we can create a stronger civil society, particularly through the use of digital data and design. Martha, am I able to share my screen? I am, thank you. So if you could wave when you can see my screen, that would, thank you so much. That's wonderful. Okay. So I guess the starting point for this actually is just a kind of quick reflection on the last year, where we've seen just thousands and thousands of experiments of organisations beginning to or trying to use digital to find some way to achieve their charitable objectives, whether that's just kind of business continuity, where we have to kind of work when we're not physically together, or whether it's about trying to create value through digital, so that whether that's services or creating spaces for people to come together. There have been thousands and thousands of experiments, and what we've seen over that last year is just how important kind of really good digital data and design is in ensuring we can respond to COVID. But I think now, in particular, we're at a time where we can kind of reflect on what's worked and also what hasn't worked, to reflect on kind of what worked before the pandemic and the things we might want to bring back, and be really intentional about how we want to kind of redesign the way in which we can be more responsive and more resilient in the future. And I use the words responsive and resilient really kind of quite critically, which is the intention of Catalyst isn't just about how we can use digital. The intention of Catalyst actually is how can we be more responsive to the changing environment which we're operating. And by being more responsive, be more resilient to those changes and those future shocks. And our hypothesis is that digital data and design are critical in ensuring we can do that. So we're at that opportunity for intentional design. Now I'm going to talk, hopefully this will be a kind of really practical kind of 6 or 7 minutes or so. So what I'm going to do is kind of talk through some things that are available through this network, just to kind of put a bit of context behind this. Over the course of the last year, we've had 500 different digital partners, digital organisations stepping in to support charities around digital data and design. We've been able to support about 20,000 charities over the past year, and the tools and resources that I'm going to be sharing have been accessed about 300,000 times. So I hope that's kind of some indication of kind of the demand and the kind of the value of the stuff that I'll be sharing. They're all freely available. They're still kind of being kind of refined and developed further. And if there's anything that you need around digital data and design that isn't here, then please just send me a message, or if you just send it to Martha, and Martha can talk to me too. I'll also share this deck at the end so you have all these links rather than having to write them down, but very quickly to go through some of the things that are available. The first is something called recipes, service recipes, which is quite literally a set of recipes that describe how charities have used digital data design to address a particular issue. It's a recipe in that it has a set of instructions and a set of ingredients, the things that have been used, the instructions, kind of the way in which they have been used, and then the description from the charity about the benefits of it and how it's gone. Two things that are really important. One, kind of the format is from charities kind of sharing their work, but it also gives you an opportunity not only to kind of learn from them, but also to contact the author and have that kind of that peer connection with someone who's doing something similar. And the recipes are really varied, from very specific things like how do we recreate like a sign-up form or a booking form in an online way, all the way to some kind of more expansive things like how can we use AI or chatbots in a simple way to kind of navigate an internal system. So a whole range of service recipes that have been proven by charities to work well, shared to hopefully align with some of the work that you might be doing. If successful recipes is one thing, another is something called Digital Candle, which is a way of accessing just some digital experts who are volunteering their time to talk to any charitable organisation around something to do with digital. There are 350 different experts. The Digital Candle site, it's just a simple form that for you to describe kind of some of the challenges you're looking to address. And then behind the scenes, we'll go through that big database of 350 volunteers and figure out who's best placed to help talk to you about it. and they put their time just to have those conversations. The conversations have been as big as we're looking to create a digital strategy, and as specific as how do I use AdWords to drive more people to our site. So any kind of particular challenge where you just want to speak to someone, there's a whole load of brilliant people who are experts in digital and in working with charities who have made themselves freely available. So please dive into that. If you want to go further than that, though, and actually create some kind of digital project, this new thing called Dovetail, which is Dovetail Network, is about trying to find the best match with an agency or a digital partner who can work well with you. We've worked really hard with charities to understand kind of what criteria and conditions make for a good partnership with a digital partner, where we don't have that expertise in-house. And so obviously kind of like price and experience in working with charities and the sorts of projects they work on, plus a lot more other kind of descriptions are all available here. But all of the agencies that are on the Dovetail network are not only kind of great at digital, they're also really experienced in working with charities. And so whereas at CAST we get lots of requests for like, who do you recommend to do some work, and we kind of go through our own database, this is a way of not having to do that, because it's now kind of these trusted organizations are sharing critical information about the way in which they work. So if you're looking for an agency to kind of help you on some work, then there are some brilliant ones here, both for-profit, non-profits, and co-ops, and everything in between. And perhaps kind of the biggest place to look for any kind of specific support is the resource hub now, which is on the Catalyst website. It's just been reorganized based on a whole range of kind of user research and feedback about how best to navigate and find things that are of use. But there are hundreds of examples now of kind of resources, from things as specific as how, what ways can we use digital to raise funding, through to how do we kind of get our team working well with someone else, all the way through to if we're using this piece of doing this work, how do we ensure it's kind of we're thinking kind of through safeguarding or data protection. So we have loads of resources created by charities with digital partners that are freely available. Now, lots of those resources are about kind of connecting to, lots of those links are about connecting to resources. One of the things that there are three conditions we found have been most important across all digital work that we've seen over the last year and beyond. The capacity to engage with it, which often means kind of grant funding or covering the cost of people to lean into the support that's available. Access to kind of expert support, but also critically access to peers. And those three kind of criteria have been fundamental to successful projects. One of them hasn't existed, the projects haven't been as successful. And this one, kind of Coffee Connections, is particularly about that peer connection. It's a really simple tool that just connects you almost randomly to someone else in the charity sector, just to have a virtual cup of coffee, half an hour or so at your own time, and it just kind of connects different people, and it's just incredibly fulfilling just to find someone new. It's almost like a water cooler moment at a conference. Just have a chance to chat to someone. It's really informal, and you get to hear another person's experience of their work, share yours, and find those kind of surprising connections. It's one of the things I kind of love doing the most, just kind of having these random conversations with other people who have some kind of tenuous link to my work, but creates great connections. So Coffee Connections, it's either monthly or bi-monthly. So it's now bi-monthly, half-an-hour coffees virtually with someone else. If you're looking for just that to extend your peer network, then I highly recommend it. And the last one to share for the moment is a site that links to some open working. And what I mean by that is the charities that we've been supporting have all been working in the open, sharing their process and their progress. All of the assets they've created, all the products they've created are freely available too. And so there's now a library of 750 different assets that charities have created, either sharing their stories, their kind of the user research they've done, the kind of processes that they've gone through, all the way through to the actual tools and the assets they've created. We've created so much across the network in the last year. We're now having to do the work of figuring out how best to organize it so it's searchable and kind of usefully presented. But for now, if it's worth just kind of going through the long list that's there, either finding organizations that you know of and seeing what they're doing, or finding, just using the kind of the taglines to see what they've been working on, to see if there's stuff that can be reused. Lots of these resources that have been created are about how can we kind of reduce the time it takes, or the efforts, or the cost it takes to try and use digital successfully in your work and in our work too. And then very finally, we worked with about 50 charities a couple of years ago to figure out kind of what are the best kind of principles to use as we address big challenges through digital. One of the things we've noticed in most digital projects is that we can't kind of sum them up at the start really clearly about kind of what's going to be achieved. What we know is there's a really good kind of design and kind of research process that helps understand the needs of people trying to support, helps understand kind of how we can best support them, and then how to kind of develop the right tools to do so. So it's the principles and the processes and the team that are so important in digital work, rather than being able to kind of come up with the ideas at the start. And these principles kind of just set out what we've seen as kind of core ways of ensuring we have those right principles and processes. There are examples of how each one's kind of put into practice, but ensuring kind of like we learn from others' brilliant work to ensure that how, as we start doing more digital stuff, it's it builds on best practice, and hopefully the better digital services or the digital design principles can be of use. I think for now, in my 10 minutes, I'm going to stop there and stop sharing the screen, and just say if there's any questions, I'll dive into the chat now and I'll see if I can answer those. But alternatively, kind of just message Martha or me. There's a huge network now of organisations and charities and organisations who are trying to figure out how we can kind of rebound from COVID to recreate kind of a stronger, more resilient, more responsive civil society. I would love you to be involved in any way you can, and if we can support you in your work, then please let me know. Thank you.